Well, let me disabuse you of any such claim.
Okay.
I led the government team that negotiated the Valco Agreement.
Yeah.
Renegotiated.
Which year was this?
1983 to 85.
Okay.
And again 87 to whatever.
The first time.
Right, that's
it was proud to you becoming Vice Chancellor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was still living in Papua New Guinea. As I said elsewhere, minding my own business.
Yeah.
But I was invited back to join the team to negotiate the agreement because we had opposed the agreement when I was on campus. My students, all of us and so on, raised issues about it. And others had also raised the issue, at the senior level.
I mean, Valco aluminium smelter.
The smelter.
Yes.
Yes. Which was using the power from Akosombo Dam. The problem we felt was that they were paying less than you are paying for electricity and making a huge profit out of it. So how can that be? And so on and so on and so on. So that was the debate before I left the country. So I was called back by the PNDC government to help with the negotiation. It was only when I got here that I knew I was going to be the leader of the team.
Okay.
Now, let me be clear on this. I had never ever done any negotiation in my life before that.
At the time?
Zero.
But you have studied it?
I was not an economist. I was not a power engineer. I was like you and everybody else. And the interesting point was that my team members were no different. None of them was an expert in negotiations with a record. No. They were young lecturers and assistant lecturers and so on. But very bright and very committed.
Key.
So the two things which we brought to the team was smartness and preparedness to work like hell and total honesty and commitment to the government.
But you were going up against an established
I'm coming to that. So what that meant was we were beginning with a handicap. But luckily for us, work had been done already in preparing the material, some of it. And the UN CTC, the United Nations Committee on Transnational Corporations, and the Commonwealth Secretariat had given the government consultants who were doing initial work before we came in. So by the time the team took shape, there were documentation here and there, records here and there, already got. But the key work had to be done by the team with consultants and help. And so this young team was the one who did all the work.
I see.
I used to come back from Papua New Guinea before negotiations. We'll correspond, and so, but I'll come to Ghana and the team will go on retreat for a week at the VRA premises in Akuse and Pong. Going through everything, checking things, doing homework. The amount of work we did, the young team, was incredible. So when we started the negotiations, we were handicapped. We didn't know everything that we needed to know. But we knew enough to know where we were starting from. And as the work went on, we learned more. We learned so much that the Valco side had to bring more and more senior people every time they came.
Yeah, because
the level was going up. We could match them boot for boot, as they say.
As they say now, yes.
Or even showdown.
Okay, so yeah, if you give us a showdown.
We gave them a showdown. But the point was that my team of young people were committed enough and learned enough quickly enough to develop positions which we could defend not only against the Valco team, but beyond them to the industry and to the World Bank and so on, that there was merit in our position. It's an amazing, amazing thing.
Is that why they reference it a lot?
Yes.
Is that why it's become like an industry standard or government-wide standard of a sort?
Yeah. It was remarkable. I mean, when you look in all these things, let me say immediately that I'm saying this now looking back.
Okay.
We didn't think in those terms.
Okay.
We had a job to do, we just got on with it.
But you were committed people.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're doing such negotiations with big companies, big aluminium, and people who had experienced for God knows how long, of course, attempt to influence you or even take out of the team people to of that. Our first that would have been necessarily made.
In fact, let me say that that is one of the strongest points we had. And it was common in those days under the Rawlings regime in the early part. My team wasn't the only ones that were committed,
Okay.
to be honest. You could trust them with information. Nobody could reach them like, no, none of
Try
that.
and get information out of them.
And therefore, part of our success was exactly on that basis. And I'll give full credit to my colleagues on the team for their devotion to the country, their preparedness to work hours, and their total honesty in the task.
For what exactly?
Nothing. They were not getting anything. They were not getting. They couldn't even buy goods that were offered, and yet they took no penny from anybody.
Wow.
To do the work. It's incredible. That spirit. If we had that spirit a little bit today, we would be where we are now. Take my word for it. They sacrifice and put in top class. And this is not a matter of me saying it. They met industry giants.
At least what's written of it backs this claim.
Head to head at the table. It wasn't a matter of waving the gun and say, Rawlings would. No, just argue your point. At one point, we sacked them. The team came. We had a good meeting the previous session and began to make some progress together. They had the second thought when they went back and came back with a whole different perspective, negating all that had been done.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That sounded unconscionable.
No, it's the way you negotiate. You bullet them.
Okay.
And we took a look and said, no, these principles we're working on with you, those represent our position. You go with them, we negotiate. You don't go with them, you can go home. Not only go home, we are closing the negotiations. It's finished.
For those who do not understand, this negotiation was about how much we were selling electricity to them.
That's one part of it.
Okay.
There are many parts.
I see.
But essentially, it was written at a time when the main focus of Kwame Nkrumah was to get the dam built. And to get the dam built in those days, you required to have a purchaser of the power you're going to produce on contract. So before you can borrow money to build the dam, you must show customers who can pay.
Who can pay for it?
To vouch for the loan amortization. So we had to have a purchaser of power. And the aluminum industry, unlike most, is mainly power consuming. They use loads of power and pay for it. So getting Valco, that is Kaiser Aluminium, to invest in Valco was critical to our getting funding, loans, to support the power agreement. So Nkrumah was prepared to give away all the benefits to get the power at Akosombo. And that's how we got Akosombo to this day.
So my conversation is with the very distinguished Professor Akilagpa Sawyerr. We just ended the education part and had just geared into one of the most interesting things that when we talk about Ghanaian ingenuity and competence was displayed. That's the Valco negotiation. And I want to tell me part one, because I understand there was part two. Yes. So Valco negotiation part one, and the commitment of the young people who had actually, who he led in this all important pursuit at the time. And it's fast.